Hey everybody. So this next video is going to be discussing the different colors of the skin. There are a number of reasons why skin color can vary or change depending on what's going on in the body. So this is just going to be really brief. If you want to look into this in more detail, there are many videos online as well as images on the internet you can look at. I'm not going to lie, most of my images I'm going to use are straight off Google. So that said, let's get into it. First off, there's different categories for why our skin will be different colors. It could be genetic. I think that's pretty straightforward. It could be environmental. That's something that, again, is pretty straightforward. We just don't really think of it that way sometimes. Physiological, meaning our body, something's happening within our body that is going to result in the color of our skin changing. And then lastly, just skin markings, things that we have on our body. So really, you can just jump at that one first. Skin markings, these are things like birthmarks and freckles and moles and stuff like that. So kind of goes with genetics, but with that said, let's jump over to genetics. So genetic factors, number one, varying melanin amounts. So, or the size of the melanin granules. So if we hop back into my really sad image here that I drew a little while ago, this is my really poor example of a melanocyte. In other words, here is the melanocyte, the cell, and then the branches that come off of it. So these branches are going to intertwine with different cells and be able to release melanin, the pigment melanin, into those skin. So the longer the branches, the more cells they can interact with and therefore provide melanin too, so they can become darker. So genetic factor, how much melanin you have and how long or how large those granules can be, those cells can be. So if you have more melanin, again, I apologize for my poor, right? If you have more of it, that's going to be darker skin. So more pigment, darker skin. If you have less, you're going to have lighter skin. Right? And that's really the difference between paler skin and darker skin. The next thing here we could talk about is the environmental factors. And these kind of tie in together, evolutionarily speaking. So environmental factors could include things like sunlight, UV light, so sun lamps technically if you're going tanning, X-rays. These are all things that can interact with your skin. Talking about sunlight first, the UV light from the sun or from UV light lamps is going to interact with the DNA within the skin cells and could cause mutations to occur. That's a little more dramatic. On a normal day basis, something you're a little more familiar with, they're going to interact with your skin cells and basically, long story short, they're going to interact with the DNA. The DNA is going to tell it, hey, we need to produce more protein. What is that protein? It's going to help us basically tan our skin, right? So it's going to be a cascade of different protein synthesis reactions in our skin that are going to basically create a tan, right? If there's too much sunlight, that's not good. If there's too little sunlight, that's not good. The goal of the sun interacting with the skin is to create vitamin D. We need that. However, if you get too much sunlight on an area, your skin's going to say, whoa, we need to darken this area. The darker the skin becomes, the less available your skin, or the less likely your skin is to synthesize vitamin D. All right, so long story short, sun hitting the skin, good. Helps us produce vitamin D, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Vitamin D synthesis. The darker your skin, the harder it is for those UV rays to penetrate the skin and cause that reaction to occur. The lighter your skin, the easier that is to happen. So in other words, if you have lighter skin, you need less sunlight than someone with darker skin. However, your body says sometimes, whoa, too much sunlight. It's going to do other reactions in the skin to basically tan it, to prevent it from taking in too much light. So tanning darkens the skin, tries to slow down the amount of light coming through. All right, that was a little longer than I wanted to. I started rambling. Sorry about that. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. Next up, physiological factors. There's a whole bunch of things that can go on. Sometimes they're simple right here. Blood vessel dilation. So in other words, your blood vessels get wider. which means more blood. If there's more blood in the area, you start to see it in your skin, maybe like in your cheeks, you're blushing. That'd be the example of that. More red in your skin because there's more blood going through it. Dermal blood vessel constriction, opposite occurs. Blood vessels are going to shrink, less blood, less red. Carotene, this is going to be an oranging of the skin. Jaundice is usually a sign of hepatitis and liver issues. This is going to be a yellowing of the skin. A hematoma is another fancy word for a bruise. So you see like purplish because what happens is the blood within the dermis is going to basically leak out of the blood vessels and die under there. And it's going to turn brown or purpley. When I say brown, yeah, you can see all the different colors when you get a bruise. Erythema, this is going to be redness, usually because of like some sort of skin irritation. The next one up is pallor. This is when there's a whitening of the skin, so less blood flow going to the area. This is usually a cause of shock. And then cyanosis, this is when you're not getting enough oxygen and you're going to see blueness in the skin. Just before we finish this up, here are a couple images here. This is obviously an extreme image. Hopefully, if anyone sees any yellowing, you go to the doctor immediately. This is someone with jaundice. So you can see the yellowing of the skin. Typically, the first place you're going to see it is the white of your eyes. So if you start seeing any yellowing there, that is a sign of jaundice or some sort of liver issues. So please go to the doctor. Erythema, this is going to be something that is, reddening of the skin. So this could be a rash, could be an infection. Pallor, usually someone who's in shock. Again, this is another way you can see it is within the eye. You're going to check, not the eye, like how I'm pointing, it's right on my screen. You're not necessarily looking at the eye itself because obviously you're going to see white within the eye. You're looking more so underneath within the eyelid because the blood vessels here are going to constrict a lot and you're going to see a whitening in this region as well. So again, this may not be as simple as seeing pale skin. This is just a good location to check. And then cyanosis is another example. Typical locations you're going to see this: fingertips and toes, as well as in your lips. These are all locations, lips, sometimes your nose. These are all locations where your body, usually it's because you're cold or some sort of shock, your body's going to shunt all of the blood off from your extremities so that it can go to your core. So what that means is less blood to the extremities. Less blood means less oxygen because red blood cells carry oxygen, if you remember cellular respiration. So not enough oxygen, starts to get bluish. And these are some images that go along with the skin color bullet points. If you have any questions on this, please let me know.